Hello, everyone. My name is Emma Carter, and today I want to share a very personal story that I believe can help so many people who are struggling just like I did. I'm 19 years old, and I live in Columbus, Ohio, United States. I'm currently a college student, majoring in psychology, and I've always been passionate about learning languages, especially English, even though it's my native language. Wait, that might sound strange, right? Let me explain. Even though I grew up speaking English, my problem was speaking confidently, especially in public, or during presentations, interviews, or even casual group conversations. I would freeze, my throat would dry up, and I'd feel like a complete stranger to my own voice. So when I say I had to learn how to improve my speaking skills, I mean it from the heart. This isn't about grammar or vocabulary, it's about confidence, fluency, clarity, and the power of expression. Let me take you from the very beginning, and maybe you'll see yourself in my story. I was born and raised in Columbus, in a pretty average neighborhood. My dad, Greg Carter, works in insurance, and my mom, Lisa Carter, is a school teacher. I have one younger brother named Noah, who is 15 now and way more confident than I ever was at his age. Growing up, I was a quiet girl, not shy, just quiet. I loved reading books, writing stories, and observing people. I always had thoughts in my head, but I couldn't bring myself to speak them out loud, especially when people were around. At home, I was totally fine. I would talk to mom and dad, play games with Noah, and even sing loudly when I was alone in my room. But the moment I stepped into a classroom or had to speak in front of people, even just introducing myself, I'd start shaking. My heart would pound like a drum, and my voice would go flat or squeaky. When I was in 8th grade, something embarrassing happened that stayed with me. We had a school presentation, and I had to speak about a science project. I knew my material. I had studied for days. But when I got up there, everything disappeared from my head. I stumbled through it, lost my place, and finally just said, "Sorry, I can't," and walked off. Everyone was quiet. Some kids laughed. I cried in the bathroom. That was when I realized that knowing what to say is not the same as knowing how to say it. And that, my friends, is the beginning of my journey in learning how to improve my speaking skills. By the time I entered college, I knew I had to change. I wanted to be someone who could speak with confidence. I wanted to ask questions in class, participate in discussions, give presentations without fear, and express myself clearly. But I didn't know how. I just knew I had to begin somewhere. So I made a plan, and that plan completely changed my life. Let me break down everything I did in the exact way it happened, so maybe it can help you too. 1. I started speaking at home, out loud, to myself. This might sound weird, but it was the most powerful first step. I stood in front of the mirror in my room and started talking to myself. At first, it was just small things. "Hi, my name is Emma Carter. I'm 19. I live in Columbus." Then I added more. "Today I learned about human behavior in my psychology class. It was interesting because..." Every day I would spend 10 to 15 minutes just speaking out loud. At first it felt awkward, but it trained my brain to form thoughts and speak them smoothly without stopping. No one was judging me, so I felt safe. 2. I recorded my voice. I downloaded a simple voice recording app on my phone and began recording myself reading stories, talking about my day, or pretending I was giving a speech. Then, I listened to the recordings. The first time I heard my voice, I hated it. I thought I sounded robotic, unclear, and boring. But instead of quitting, I listened carefully to improve. I noticed things like I was speaking too fast. My tone was flat. I used and like too much. I ended sentences too quietly, so I worked on each point. I practiced slowing down, adding emotion, pausing where needed, and removing fillers. Week by week, I got better. 3. I joined a speaking club, even though I was terrified. This was the real game changer. My college had a club called Voices United, a student-led speaking group that met every Thursday. The first time I went, I just sat quietly and listened. Everyone seemed so confident, and I felt like I didn't belong. But the club leader, Ava Thompson, came up to me and said something I'll never forget. Confidence doesn't come before action. Action comes first, then confidence follows. So I signed up to do a 2-minute speech the next week. I practiced the whole week. I gave that speech about my favorite childhood book, shaking from head to toe, but I did it. People clapped. Someone said, "I loved how you described the characters." I walked out of that room with tears in my eyes, not from fear, but from pride. 4. I learned the power of small conversations. I used to think improving speaking skills meant giving speeches. But one of the best ways I improved was by having small daily conversations with people around me. At the campus cafe, I started asking the barista, "How's your day going?" When I sat next to someone in class, I'd say, "Hey, did you understand the last lecture?" These tiny conversations helped me get used to different people's responses, build real-time thinking while speaking, feel more natural and less rehearsed. 5. I watched and imitated great speakers. I spent hours on YouTube watching TED Talks. My favorites were Brené Brown, Simon Sinek, and Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I didn't just listen, I studied their tone, body language, storytelling style, and how they paused. I would pause the video and try to repeat a sentence just like them. This helped me understand rhythm, tone, and how to emotionally connect through speech. 6. I practiced with friends. I told my best friend Julia Brooks that I was working on my speaking skills, and she offered to help. Every weekend, we'd meet at the campus library or cafe and do a speaking challenge. We picked a random topic and had 2 minutes to speak about it. Topics like your dream job, your favorite holiday memory, something that changed your life. She gave me feedback, and I did the same for her. We both improved together. 7. I learned to embrace mistakes. This might be the most important lesson. In the beginning, I was afraid to make mistakes. I wanted every sentence to be perfect. But that fear blocked my flow. I realized that even great speakers make mistakes. They just keep going. So now, if I mess up a word or lose my thought, I smile, take a breath, and continue. And so my journey didn't stop the day I first stood confidently at that club meeting. In fact, it was just the beginning of a series of challenges that would continue to push me and teach me more about the art of speaking than I ever imagined. Not long after my second Voices United speech, I learned about a campus-wide research symposium open to undergraduates. It was an opportunity to present our own original work in front of faculty, graduate students, and even local professionals. My psychology professor, Dr. Morales, encouraged me to submit a proposal on a small study I designed about how body language affects interview performance. I was terrified, but I decided to try. Proposal to presentation. Over the next month, I transformed my rough idea into a full research poster. Every evening after classes, I rehearsed how I would explain my study, the hypothesis, methodology, findings, and implications. I used my bedroom mirror again, but this time I also filmed myself using my phone's landscape mode to capture my posture and hand gestures. I noticed I tended to cross my arms or shift my weight, which made me look defensive or unsettled. So I practiced standing with my feet shoulder-width apart, my hands relaxed at my sides, or gesturing naturally. and my shoulders back. A week before the symposium, Dr. Morales invited me to do a mock presentation in her office with two graduate students. My heart pounded as I stood in front of them, but I greeted them with a smile, remembering that first rule of speaking: open with warmth. They asked challenging questions about my data, and I stumbled at first, but then recalled my advice to myself. Pause. Think. Then answer. I took a measured breath, restated their question, and delivered clear, concise responses. Afterward, they praised how I'd handled the pressure. The big day, on that crisp spring morning, I walked into the symposium hall wearing my favorite navy blazer. My palms were sweaty, but I applied one last breathing technique I'd learned from a podcast. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4. This box breathing calmed my racing thoughts. When a visitor paused at my poster, I greeted her. Hello? I'm Emma Carter. I'd love to show you my research on nonverbal cues in interviews. Her smile and engaged eye contact gave me confidence. As I explained my study, I found myself speaking with more clarity and conviction than I ever thought possible. The questions came fast and sharp, some about statistical significance, others about practical applications, and each time I paused, chose my words, and answered with enthusiasm. By the end of the session, attendees congratulated me on my findings and presentation style. One hiring manager from a local tech firm even asked if I'd be interested in an internship to help train their recruiters on communication skills. I walked away floating on air, not because the praise felt good, but because I realized I had found my voice. Deep dive. Techniques that made the difference. Looking back, these practices were the pillars that supported my growth. Mirror work and recording training myself to see and hear my authentic speaking style helped me correct habits I didn't even know I had. Breathing and vocal warm-ups. Simple exercises like humming scales, tongue twisters, red leather, yellow leather, and box breathing prepared my voice muscles and calmed nerves. Body language awareness. Open posture, deliberate gestures, and consistent eye contact signal confidence to your audience and your brain. Incremental exposure. Moving from solo practice to small clubs to large symposiums gradually increased my comfort zone without overwhelming me. Storytelling and structure, framing information as a story, beginning with a hook, developing a clear narrative arc, and ending with a takeaway, makes your message memorable. Embracing feedback, actively seeking critique from friends, mentors, and even strangers taught me to view mistakes as stepping stones rather than failures. Beyond skills, a newfound community. Perhaps the most unexpected gift was the network I built. Through Voices United and the symposium, I met students from engineering who taught me how technical speakers simplify jargon, drama majors who shared tips on projection, and international students whose bilingual perspectives reminded me that speaking is as much cultural as it is personal. We formed a peer circle, the Communicators Collective, that now meets weekly. We take turns hosting mini workshops, one week on persuasive speaking, thanks to Maya, the marketing major, the next on storytelling structure, courtesy of Jamal, the English major, then on voice modulation, from our friend Lee, the theater major. Teaching others has been a profound way to reinforce my own skills. Where I am now, and where I'm headed today, I help lead Voices United, coach first-year students nervously clutching index cards, and even guest lecture on communication strategies in Dr. Morales' lab. My long-term dream is to blend psychology and public speaking to become a communication consultant, helping people overcome fear, find their authentic voice, and connect more meaningfully. If someone had told shy, mirror-talking Emma from 2 years ago that she'd be here, presenting research, leading workshops, and inspiring others to speak up, I wouldn't have believed it. But it happened because I practiced, persisted, and pursued every opportunity to speak. A final word to you: improving your speaking skills isn't a hurdle to clear just once. It's a lifelong journey of discovery, connection, and growth. Whenever you feel stuck, remember this: speak out loud, even if it's to yourself. Record, listen, and learn. Breathe, warm up, and stand tall. Seek small stages before you tackle big ones. Share your story, because your voice matters. That summer after the symposium, I stayed back on campus for a research assistantship, and something unexpected happened. A new kind of speaking challenge one morning in late June. Dr. Morales asked if I could help with a community outreach event organized by the psychology department. They were hosting a mental wellness workshop at a local community center, and the goal was to teach basic emotional regulation strategies to teenagers. She said, "Emma, I think you'd be perfect for this. You're good at making complex ideas simple, and the way you speak connects." I was honored, but nervous again. This wasn't a controlled classroom or an academic audience. It was a group of 14 to 17-year-olds, most from underserved neighborhoods, attending with little interest in sitting through a mental health talk. So I did what I had learned to do: prepare like crazy, but speak like a human. I scrapped the formal outline. Instead, I began the session with a personal story about the time I failed my first exam and felt too ashamed to talk to anyone about it. I shared how I bottled up the anxiety and how it showed up physically: tight chest, headaches, sleepless nights. And then I talked about how speaking openly, even to just one friend, changed everything. They listened. Like, really listened. Later, one of the girls, Sophia, 15, with big eyes and a quiet voice, came up to me and said, "I didn't think someone like you had those kinds of problems, too. It makes me feel less weird." That one moment made me realize something big. Speaking isn't just about sounding good. It's about giving other people permission to speak, too. From the classroom to conversations that matter, as I got more involved in these community events, I started noticing how the way I spoke influenced how people responded. When I paused and made eye contact, people opened up. When I shared stories instead of just facts, people remembered the message. When I asked questions instead of giving advice, people reflected more deeply. At home, too, my relationships changed. My dad, Michael Carter, a retired high school math teacher, used to say, "Emma, you're too soft-spoken. You need to toughen up." But now, when I sat with him at the kitchen table and talked about my presentations or the kids I worked with, he listened. One evening, he even said, "You've grown, Em. You speak like someone who's found her purpose." And my mom, Angela Carter, a nurse, began inviting me to help her host a little Wellness Wednesday session at her hospital's break room. I led a talk on stress and speech anxiety for her coworkers, many of whom had avoided speaking at staff meetings for years. Seeing how much it meant to them reminded me that fear of speaking is universal. and that growth is always possible. Practical tools that truly helped me. Let me pause here and give you a little summary of the very practical, real-life tools that helped me improve over time. These are things you can do, even if you're just starting. 1. Speak to yourself daily. I still do this. Every morning as I get ready, I talk through my plan for the day, out loud. Okay, Emma, today you have the 11 a.m. meeting, and after that, it builds fluency and reduces hesitation. 2. Voice notes and playback recording voice notes on my phone, even just 1 to 2 minutes, helped me notice pace, tone, and filler words like like, or you know. Over time, my tone became more confident and my sentences flowed better. 3. Active listening. I trained myself to truly listen during conversations, not just to respond, but to understand. When I mirrored people's energy and language, they felt seen, and it made speaking easier. 4. Joining a speaking circle, Voices United was my first step. But there are plenty of online groups, Discord servers, Reddit threads, and local meetups where people help each other improve. Look for Toastmasters, local speaking clubs, or community center programs. 5. Slow down to speed up. When I felt nervous, I used to speed up my speech. Now I intentionally slow down. A short pause between sentences makes me sound thoughtful and gives me time to breathe. The moment I realized I had changed, I'll never forget one fall evening, walking through campus as the leaves turned gold. I passed by a nervous first-year student sitting on a bench rehearsing lines. Her voice trembled. I sat beside her and smiled. Big presentation? She nodded. My first one ever. I hate this. I'm not good at speaking. I reached into my tote bag and pulled out a small dog-eared note card. On it, in black ink, I had written, "It's not about perfection. It's about connection." I handed it to her and said, "This saved me. You're already better than you think." She read it, blinked twice, and smiled. Thanks. Really. That's when I realized I had not just improved my speaking, I had transformed. Looking ahead, now, at 22, in my final year at The Ohio State University, I'm applying to graduate programs in communication psychology. I want to research how speaking impacts mental health, especially for women, minorities, and people who've grown up thinking their voice doesn't matter. One of my long-term dreams is to build a digital platform called Speak You, a space where students from all backgrounds can practice public speaking safely, get real feedback, and grow in a judgment-free zone. Because if there's one thing I've learned from my journey, from whispering to myself in the mirror to speaking on symposium stages, it's this: your voice is your story, and your story deserves to be heard. So if you're reading this now, wondering if you can do it too, please hear me when I say yes. Yes, you can. Start small, speak daily, mess up and laugh, learn and keep going. Because speaking isn't just about performance, it's about power, presence, and purpose. And your voice, my friend, is your superpower. Here are tips and tricks to improve your English speaking skills, fully explained in a detailed and practical way, just like Emma Carter might share after her story. These are grounded in real-life practices, especially helpful for students, professionals, and anyone trying to become a confident speaker. 1. Speak every day. even if it's to yourself. Why it works. Speaking is a skill, like riding a bike or playing an instrument. You don't get fluent by just reading or listening. You have to produce sound. Your tongue, lips, and brain need to coordinate. How to do it. Stand in front of a mirror for 5 to 10 minutes and talk about your day. Start with simple things like, "Today, I woke up at 7 a.m. I felt tired, but I had to attend class." Don't worry about grammar mistakes. Just focus on flow and fluency. Record yourself occasionally to track your progress. Emma's tip. I used to talk to myself while walking around campus. No one noticed. I just wore my earphones and pretended I was on a call. 2. Voice notes and playback. Why it works. We don't always realize how we sound until we listen to ourselves. This helps you catch filler words, unclear pronunciation, or too fast speaking. How to do it. Use your phone's voice memo app. Pick a random topic. My favorite movie, what I ate today, or how I solve problems. Speak for 1 to 2 minutes, then play it back and listen. Are you too fast or too slow? Do you repeat, like, or too much? Are your ideas clear? Bonus trick. Transcribe your own voice into writing. Great for noticing grammar gaps. 3. Learn sentences, not just words. Why it works. Words alone aren't enough. Fluent speakers use full sentences and patterns, called chunks or collocations, like, "Can I get?" "I was just about to." The reason I think that is, how to do it. Watch English shows or YouTube interviews and write down real-life sentence examples. Practice repeating them aloud. Try using the same sentences in your real conversations. Emma's example. I learned natural phrases from sitcoms like Friends and The Office. I'd write them in a notebook and use them during my day. 4. Practice active listening. Don't just hear, understand. Why it works. Great speakers are first great listeners. When you understand how native speakers form sentences, emphasize words, or pause, you learn to do the same. How to do it. Watch interviews, TED Talks, or podcasts in English. Instead of multitasking, focus 100% on what's being said. Repeat parts of the audio out loud, called shadowing. Pause and mimic their intonation and rhythm. Emma's tip. I used the TED Talk, The Power of Vulnerability, by Brené Brown to practice emotion, tone, and speaking from the heart. 5. Join a speaking group or language exchange. Why it works. Conversation is a two-way street. Practicing with others helps you think on your feet and speak without fear. How to do it. Join English conversation clubs in your school, city, or online. Zoom, Discord, Reddit. Use apps like Tandem, HelloTalk, or Speaky to find English learners worldwide. Be consistent. Even 15 minutes a day makes a difference. Emma's real-life example. My first speaking group was awkward. I was shy, but after a few weeks, I became one of the most active members. The trick is just showing up. 6. Keep a speaking journal. Why it works. Writing your thoughts and then saying them aloud helps transfer what's in your mind into real speech. How to do it. Every day, write one paragraph about something you care about. Then, read it aloud slowly and try to explain it in your own words without reading. Focus on expressing ideas clearly, not being perfect. Emma's secret. I had a red notebook where I wrote about my college stress, family stories, and weekend memories, then turned them into mini speeches. 7. Focus on clarity, not perfection. Why it works. Many learners get stuck because they try to sound perfect. Flawless grammar, accent, vocabulary, but that slows you down and increases fear. How to do it. Set small, clear goals. Today, I'll focus on speaking slowly. This week, I'll use 3 new phrases I heard in a podcast. If you make a mistake, don't stop. Just keep going. That's how real conversations work. Emma's mindset shift. Once I realized that confidence mattered more than correctness, everything changed. 8. Use speaking prompts and role play. Why it works. Practicing scenarios helps you become ready for real-life situations like interviews, ordering food, giving presentations, or asking for help. How to do it. Write down situations you want to practice. Ordering coffee. Job interview question. Explaining a hobby. Act it out. Record it. Get feedback if possible. Use platforms like ChatGPT, Yes, Me, to simulate conversations. Emma's creative tip. I practiced being a podcast host and asked myself questions. It made me speak naturally and gave me fun confidence boosts. Surround yourself with English. Why it works. The more you're exposed to English, the more natural it feels. This builds a habit of thinking and responding faster. How to do it. Change your phone and social media language to English. Follow English-speaking influencers, news, and comedy. Label objects in your home with English names. Think in English. I'm opening the door now. I need to wash my hands. What should I eat today? Emma's immersion rule. I made English zones. For example, my bedroom was an English-only space for 1 hour each evening. 10. Believe in your voice. Why it works. Many learners stay silent because they're afraid of judgment or embarrassment. But the truth is, your accent, your story, your ideas matter. How to do it. Surround yourself with supportive people. Remind yourself, native speakers don't speak perfectly either. Watch motivational videos of non-native English speakers doing amazing things. Affirm your progress. Every day, my English is improving. Emma's heart lesson. I used to feel like my voice didn't matter, but the more I used it, the more people listened. The world needs your voice too. 11th. Train your brain to think in English. Why it works. If your brain always translates from your native language to English before speaking, your speech will always be slow and awkward. Thinking directly in English makes you faster and more natural. How to do it. Start with simple thoughts. I am hungry. It's cold today. I will go to class at 9. Narrate your actions in English. Now I'm brushing my teeth. Let me check my schedule. Try 5-minute English thinking sessions every day where you don't allow yourself to think in your mother tongue. When you're unsure of a word, describe it instead of stopping. For example, the thing you write with, instead of pen. Emma's practice. I trained myself by sticking sticky notes on objects around my dorm room. Everything had an English label. This rewired my brain to start processing daily life in English. 12. Use the listen, repeat, speak freely method. Why it works. This method builds muscle memory improves pronunciation, and trains your mouth to produce English naturally. Steps: listen. Choose a short video audio clip with natural spoken English, 1 to 2 minutes. Repeat. Pause after each sentence and imitate it exactly. Focus on rhythm, intonation, and stress. Speak freely. Retell the clip in your own words. Don't memorize. Just express what you understood. Emma's tip: I used Ellen DeGeneres interviews. They were short, funny, and filled with real expressions. I'd watch, repeat, and retell it like I was the one talking. 13. Read out loud, but with emotion and expression. Why it works. Reading out loud improves pronunciation, tone, and fluency, but only if you read with feeling like a real speaker, not like a robot. How to do it? Choose articles, short stories, or even your own writing. Read like you're telling a story to a friend. Change your tone for excitement, sadness, surprise, etc. Record yourself weekly and compare your expressiveness. Emma's exercise. Every Sunday night, I read one page from my favorite novel out loud in different styles. Slowly, dramatically, like a newscaster, and like a storyteller. It was fun and powerful. 14. Create a vocabulary to speaking pipeline. Why it works. Knowing words is only useful when you can use them in conversation. Many learners know 5,000 words, but can't use even 500 in speech. How to do it? When you learn a new word, immediately use it in 3 sentences, written and spoken. Then use it in real conversation or a self-practice session. For example, if you learn impressed, say, I was really impressed by the movie. My professor was impressed with my essay. Are you easily impressed? Emma's vocabulary hack. I created flashcards, but instead of definitions, each card had 3 real speaking examples. It made me confident to actually use new words. 15. Watch movies with subtitles, then without. Why it works. Movies give you real conversational English with slang, phrasal verbs, and natural rhythm. Watching with and without subtitles builds listening and speaking power. How to do it. Watch with English subtitles first to understand. Write down useful lines. Replay short scenes without subtitles. Imitate the actors and practice out loud. Emma's favorite movies. I watched Legally Blonde, The Social Network, and Hidden Figures. I memorized lines and practiced saying them with emotion and speed. 16. Use body language and facial expression. Why it works. Communication is not just words. Gestures, tone, and facial expression make your speaking more natural and confident. How to do it. Stand up when practicing. Move your hands. Use facial expressions. Record video of yourself talking. Do you look engaged or stiff? Mirror native speakers' body language from interviews. Emma's learning moment. When I started using hand movements and smiled while speaking, people found my speech more engaging, even if I made small mistakes. 17. Embrace mistakes and learn from them. Why it works. Mistakes are not a sign of failure. They're a sign you're trying and growing. Every great speaker made thousands of them. How to do it. Keep a mistake diary. Whenever someone corrects you or you notice an error, write it down. Reflect and create a new sentence using the corrected form. Say it out loud several times. Emma's confidence booster. I had a notebook called Oops to Awesome. I turned every error into a corrected example, and I reviewed it weekly. 18. Get feedback from native or fluent speakers. Why it works. You can't fix what you don't know. Honest feedback improves pronunciation, sentence structure, and natural flow. How to do it. Ask a tutor, language partner, or advanced friend to listen and give you feedback on. Speed word choice. Grammar fluency, don't be shy. Most people are happy to help if you ask kindly. Emma's brave step. I asked my communication professor for feedback on a class presentation. He said, "Your message is clear, but slow down and stress the right words." That changed my entire delivery style. Learn phrasal verbs and idioms and use them. Why it works. Native speakers often use multi-word verbs like give up, look after, run into, that can be confusing, but mastering them adds fluency and authenticity. How to do it. Learn 5 new phrasal verbs or idioms a week. Write a mini story or dialogue using them. Speak it out loud or role play with a friend or app. Emma's favorites. Cut to the chase. Blow off steam. Bump into someone. Come up with an idea. I used these in my daily speech until they became natural. 20. Celebrate small wins. Why it works. Motivation is key. If you always wait to be fluent before feeling proud, you'll get discouraged. Celebrate progress step by step. How to do it. Write a list of achievements. I introduced myself confidently. I spoke to a classmate in English for 3 minutes. I gave a 2-minute talk without stopping. Treat yourself. A new book, a nice coffee, a day off studying. Emma's way to celebrate. Every month, I recorded a video diary in English and watched the old ones. Seeing my growth kept me going. Final note from Emma. I started scared, slow, and unsure. Now, I speak with joy, mistakes, emotion, and freedom. You can do it too. Speaking English is not about sounding American or British. It's about sharing your soul through your words.